Hello, I am Michael Sullivant, and I am the CEO of Life Model Works. Life Model Works is a ministry that integrates the latest and best neuroscience with a biblical worldview to create identity transformation into the image of Christ. And we promote emotional and relational intelligence. And the people that follow us and listen to our talks and read our books, we're dedicated to learning how God matures people in general and how specifically he conforms his children into the image of Christ according to the design that he's given to us. And we're doing a series of interviews. We're calling them Renovated Lives. And we are so blessed because we have amazing friends, and we're having the chance to introduce our friends to our audience today and through the days and through the weeks and months. And these are people who've integrated classic spiritual disciplines with maturity/brain skills. We'll talk more about those. And so we have with us today our thought leader for Life Model Works and our neurotheologian, Dr. Jim Wilder. And Jim has just completed a book that'll be coming out in the spring of 2020. And Jim, welcome, and tell us a little bit about the book.
Well, it's great to be with you. Yes, the book is called Renovated, God, Dallas Willard, and Churches That Transform, being published by Nav Press. It's on the neuroscience of spiritual life, and it's based on my interactions with Dallas Willard at the intersection of spiritual formation and character formation. And that's where we like to work. And today we've got a wonderful guest with us, Dave Mead, who's been Army officer, brigade commander, vice president, and leader of navigators. He's also a consultant with his own business, strength coach, and he's applied, I think, everything he's learned from scripture and from neuroscience into creating a wonderful life around himself. So I'm looking forward to talking with you this morning, Dave.
I'm glad to be with you, Jim and Michael.
Yeah, we appreciate you so much. And we know that you're touching a lot of people's lives with the wisdom that God's given to you. So tell us a little bit about your history with spiritual disciplines and anything about Dallas Willard that has impacted your life.
Yes. So I probably come from a more traditional discipleship type of model, which I like to refer as being predominantly left brain. So it's a lot of gathering information, hearing, and it's good. I mean, so on the classic spiritual disciplines, morning quiet times, meditating on the word, scripture memory was probably, as a young believer, dominant in my life. Just enjoyed memorizing and meditating on the wonderful truths of God. And so that's been my background. With Dallas Willard, I have read the classics, but my best Dallas Willard memory is probably when he visited Glen Eyrie. I was not part of the conversation, but I did hear about the conversation where at the time the president of the Navigators asked Dallas, could you describe Jesus in one word? And there was a pause as Dallas reflected. And he said, unhurried. Unhurried. And I just thought that's magnificent, because when I think of Dallas Willard, I think of John 1:14, when the word became flesh. I thought in all of his writings, Dallas did as much as anybody to bring the divine Jesus into the human Jesus. Mm-hmm. And what that means for us as people.
Yeah,
it's the divine conspiracy. And I've never read anything that was so clarifying that what it meant for God to humble himself and come in the form of man. So that's so when I heard the unhurried, I thought, what a wonderful human way to describe Jesus, that he's not rushing about here and there. He's not being forced about because of an agenda, but he's being able to linger among the living and the lost. He's able to be very, very intentional without the flurry of activity. And I think for me particularly, those two were tied, you know, the more active I am, the more intentional I am. And he was able to kind of disconnect the two, that God is really a relational God on his own timeline, which is not our timeline. I recently heard sometimes you have to slow down to catch up to God.
Yeah.
And that's where I am. I'm trying to slow down so I can catch up with God.
That's great. I've heard the phrase slower is faster. And I've also heard smaller is bigger. And I really resonate with those things. And Dallas kind of embodied those things himself. So you were a disciplined Christian. You practiced quiet times and memorization of scripture and a lot of other disciplines that you learned as a young believer. When did you come to faith, by the way, Dave?
Yeah, I came as a freshman in college. So I was 18 years old.
That's how old I was too. It's a great time to come to Christ because you're starting your adult life, right? It's a good transition point. Wow. So along comes brain science and the life model. How did that intersect with your journey?
Yeah, the way I was introduced to the life model was through actually my leader in the NAVs had met with Jim Martini, who was the CEO at that time. Mm-hmm. And again, it was not a planned event. It just happened. And Jim gave my friend the book Rare Leadership. And my boss knew that I enjoyed this type of thing. And he sent it to me in the mail. He said, I think you would enjoy this book. Get with Jim and, you know, give me your ideas, your thoughts. And as I began to read about true transformation, instead of the traditional sense of what transformation looks like, but being true is knowing your identity, but also knowing being who you truly are, but also belonging in culture. That's when those two things come together is when we see true transformation. And with Jim's work in the recovering community, it made total sense to me.
Yeah.
And by the way, I just want to caveat is that you make me sound like a spiritual discipline guru. I was actually a guilty spiritual discipline guy because I couldn't quite keep it up as much as I thought I should.
Yeah.
So that's the shadow part of it. But I realized that this was the answer, is that I needed to be who I am by design, in God and by God. But I needed to be in a community that knew me, that knew who I was, that could support me and protect me, but also promote me. And so a place of belonging, people who knew who I was. I'd never quite seen it that clearly before.
Yeah. So as you think about the skills, the brain skills or the relational skills, sometimes we call them maturity skills, what are some that stand out to you that have made a difference in your life?
Yeah, by the way, the skills are probably the primary thing, and along with the Emmanuel lifestyle. But as far as the brain skills, the aha moment for my life was how to act like myself, remain relational. Mm-hmm. I am such a left-brained thinker. I've got a propensity towards that. The military certainly trains that.
Yes.
And then the navigators jumped on top of that too.
Right.
That the idea of rewiring to my right brain and becoming a relational, so making sure my relational circuits are on, all those things. So the different brain skills that help keep my relational circuits on and be a relational being have been huge.
That's great. And have people noticed the difference, would you say?
Yeah.
What a blessing that is. Well, Jim Wilder, why don't you jump in at this point and just share some observations of our conversation?
Well, Dave is one of those people that puts together an excellent plan, and part of his plan is also to bring out who people are and to combine that with excellent skills. And so planning and developing skills, but ones that fit the identity of the person. And not only that, he's someone who knows organizations, but farther than that, communities and families. It's like, he uses his whole brain. And the thing that I've liked to watch was how he hasn't actually tried to pick sides, but to incorporate everything, so it all works together, and then immediately turns around and sees how to bring that out in others. And I think that flow through of God's life in him is one of the things that just delights me of being around Dave every time I see him. So thank you for being part of this interview and helping us to sense the reality of that.
Oh, I'm delighted. This has changed my life. You can ask my wife. You can ask my friends. I was recently with a friend, and he says, I see a different side of you. And I asked him, well, what's that? He says, you seem humble. And I thought, well, I'm not a proud guy. And I think there's just, and I just thanked him, because it's Jesus. More of the identity. I don't have to be or prove myself to be anything other than who I am in him, period. Oh, and then when you're with that community that supports that, again, that's where the magic happens. And it's a unique community. And I'm grateful for everything that you all are doing.
And we're thankful that we're friends with you too, Dave, and we're grateful for what God's doing in your life. Thanks for joining us today. Again, our Jim Wilder has written a new book. It'll be published in the spring of 2020, and we're excited about it. It's called Renovated, God, Dallas Willard, and Churches That Transform.